The ideological echo chamber memo within Google showed that they need to take considerable time with their actions before putting them into effect. After Google's decision in removing a former engineer from their company, James Damore, the issues surrounding his controversial memo became viral, bringing up many news articles releasing their own opinions on what James Damore had done to a society where gender equality is a top priority to many. Some argued that Google was in the right for quickly removing Damore from the workplace, while others were furious at Google's decision-making. Interviews were made for Damore to express his views between men and women in tech, which caused even more discussion surrounding Google's policies. This became the top news for a while because of the high reputation Google holds, and this whole issue could have potentially ruined it. Some called for Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, to be removed from his position after firing Damore for not being able to justify his decision on why the memo was so important when it was just a personal opinion on a situation Damore seemed to have concern in. The University of California, Santa Barbara made their stance on this issue of approving what Google had decided. They made it clear that Google had done what any other company should have done by following the necessary procedures when one of their policies are broken. If they hadn't done this, this could have caused more consequences to come forth with women being treated in the tech industry. Now, the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania saw that this was a bad move by Google, explaining how they could have used this situation to manipulate it into a marketing scheme to bring more benefits for the company itself. They wanted Damore to be able to continue this conversation that he had sparked with his memo, with Google in the end trying to correct him on his mistakes, which in turn would show a better image on how Google dealt with internal problems. The set standards that Google built themselves around with will allow them to keep maintaining their reputation when progress is being made. Google, for the past years, have been constantly working towards a community full of diversity and inclusion. Being one of the top companies, they've constantly changed their standards so that they could adapt to what society wants and to uphold a good reputation to the public. They do this so that they can keep improving the workforce image and strive towards an inclusive culture. Every year, they send out their diversity report, which allows the public to see if they have shown any improvement in their labor pool and helps the company to see what rules to improve based off their statistics so that it can help with transparency and their workforce representation. The expansion of diversity in the workplace allows incorporation of new perspectives to combat challenges that lead to greater productivity. Many people can argue that Google is not doing a good enough job of increasing the diversity within their company with such a low percentage of women making up the workforce. However, Google has shown to the public that this is a work in progress, as mentioned before with their annual updates on their diversity report with the upward trend each year. These results not only show the progress that Google is working towards a greater performance for the company, it also reinforces the building blocks of creating a stronger reputation. James Damore seemed to have been denied his right of freedom of speech when his memo was released and the consequences that came with it. The First Amendment gives the right for people to speak out their opinion, religion, petition against the government, and for people to assemble peacefully. James Damore, from the public's viewpoint, seems to have been denied the right to speak about his opinion surrounding the diversity in the workforce freely when he was fired from his job from Google. However, Damore brought it upon himself for breaking the code of conduct by not abiding to the rule that states employees are to create a workplace culture that does not tolerate any form of bias, harassment, intimidation, and unlawful discrimination. Also within California, it is illegal for an employer, labor organization, or any training program leading to employment to fail to take all reasonable steps necessary to prevent discrimination and harassment from occurring, ultimately resulting in losing his job as it was legally required under California law, and as Sundar Pichai saw his memo message as advancing harmful gender stereotypes in the workplace. The approach James Damore took in tackling what the gender diversity issue was within the workforce was done poorly for the media to see what he really was trying to promote. The premise of how the media perceived James Damore's memo was that women are biologically inferior to men in the workplace, which was one of the big reasons why so many were against Damore and a factor to why Google had to remove him from their company. His memo had other claims that talked about women having a different personality compared to men, which brought them at a lower standing in how effective they are in their work. However, his way of explaining this to the public sparked anger, By placing these claims, he generalized the whole group that they couldn't outdo men, making many people upset for his assumptions and against what his whole memo was about. However, James Damore was trying to display that there are differences in men and women, and to be more inclusive of women in the workplace, he listed out potential solutions that Google should consider. Google's laws and policies are seen as absolute in the workforce. Google essentially has more power than the government in some ways through the sheer amount of influence it holds onto the public because of how widespread their platform is on the internet. Anything that doesn't go with what they stand by, it is censored to the public, which holds a lot of influential power because all of it is behind the scenes, where the public knows nothing about the change. Other subtle things we see with this are the ads that are placed in Google when searching for anything in their search engine to persuade the audience to help out their sponsors, or on YouTube, the biggest video sharing service with millions of users online owned by Google, where the ads seem to target the audience with what videos they seem to like using their algorithms. With this power, they can potentially use this influence to impose their political views to the public, which goes back to how Google resolved the issues surrounding Damore's memo on men and women. Damore's memo had many potential ways for the workforce to have more diversity, but outlined the fact that women were inferior to men due to differences they had biologically. This went against their code of conduct, as mentioned before, which Google does not tolerate at all whatsoever, causing the end result of him being fired. Gender equality isn't something that can be easily fixed. Even with the many movements occurring in today's society, just like any other goal, it takes time and effort. Google, having so much influence with what they have and done, can help contribute in finishing this race of gender equality.